Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Uh, my name is Attorney Ifoma Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey. My firm serves clients. I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to turn the focus off and then I'm going to come back to, yes, I'm going to come back to Instagram. I had to turn off my phone because I didn't want the phone to ring. But let me start again. My name is Ifeoma Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm in New Jersey. My law firm serves clients from all 50 states in the United States. So if you have an immigration matter, if it's humanitarian, which we do a lot of, or it's family based, call us 973-993-1900. And if today is your first time joining us, let me know so I can say hello. So as you join me, please comment on the chat, on the comment section. Ask your questions. I'm going to answer questions when I'm done with my presentation. I'm not going to be able to answer a lot of questions, but go ahead and put them in because I do come back to look at those questions and sometimes they form the basis of a new live. So guys, today I want to talk about a visa type that is not very common. And the reason I want to talk about it is I want to make it common to you guys because the more you know, the more power you have, the more you're able to think of pathways that will assist you. Hi, Chi Jim. Nice to see you. So, um, there are a lot of people who come for consultations, and you know, while talking to them, I find out that they qualify for something that nobody has ever told them that they qualified for. And this conversation, this topic I'm about to talk about, the T visa, is one such visa. And the T visa is it's a lot of attorneys don't do the T visa and it's T visa is complex. It's one of those visa types that it's hard to explain because it's kind of niched, but when you see it, if you've done it a lot, when you see it, you know it, and you know the right questions to ask. And when I do consultations for clients, um, I feel like dancing when I hit the right question and I get somebody who could qualify for T because the T visa is an amazing way to get your green card. It's you don't need a family member to file for you. You don't need to leave the United States. It waives so many inadmissibilities, so many. I think the T visa and the U visa are the ones that waive the most inadmissibility. So whatever you've done, as long as it's not terrorism or you're not a Nazi, it likely would waive it. And you can file for family if you're in T visa status. Your family members within the United States or outside the United States could also get their status through your application. So those are some of the reasons that the T visa is an amazing visa. So let's talk about it, right? And I want to give you certain scenarios because I think the best way to explain the T visa is to explain the scenarios where you can find the T visa. So I'm going to give you the legal definition, which is a lot of mumbo jumbo, and then I'll break it down. Okay, so the recruiting, a severe trafficking situation occurs when there's recruiting, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining a person through force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of involuntary servitude, debt, bondage, or sex trafficking. That's a definition. It's a mouthful, so let me explain it, and I'll break it down. So basically, a trafficking situation occurs in three situations, right? If somebody under the age of 18 is induced to perform commercial sex trafficking, prostitution, commercial sex acts. If somebody under the age of 18 is induced to perform commercial sex acts, which like prostitution, that is trafficking automatically. All right. Now, in other situations like labor trafficking, we're talking of procuring services of somebody through force, through fraud, or through coercion for the purposes of involuntary servitude. So mark the word involuntary. It means that you're having to do this job because you are being threatened. The employer is threatening you with, calling the cops for some reason, maybe threatening you with blacklisting you so you would never get another job, maybe threatening you with deportation, maybe threatening you with, calling immigration on you. But you're in a situation where you're working, right? And you're not getting the full value of your work, but you have to continue working because there's a compulsion to continue working, which you feel because of the threats to yourself, to your either bodily threats to yourself or threats to your reputation or threats to your safety, in which situation you feel that you have to continue working, right? Now, of course, a lot of people get out of that situation, right? But at the time you are in the situation, we want to know why couldn't you leave? So let me tell you certain situations where we have, where they're trafficking. For instance, you have somebody who, you have a partner, who, love bombs you, brings you over to the United States, tells you they love you, they want to be with you, they're going to marry you, and your life is going to be really great thereafter. And you come to the United States only to find out that they brought you there so that you could do work. Sometimes they want you to work outside the home, and then you turn over their money, over the money you earn, or they want you to work within the home where maybe you're taking care of their children, you have no say in anything, and there's that fear that if you don't do what they want, the way they want you to do it, that there are going to be consequences, right? That's one. There's trafficking in situations where you bring somebody, say, from another country into the United States with the promise that you're going to put them through school, right? They're going to go to school. And they come into the United States and you tell them, oh, well, the school hasn't started. We need you to start. You're going to get to school. Don't worry. But for right now, you're just going to stay home. And they're putting you to work. They're basically treating you like a slave, like a servant. And a lot of times you're not being compensated monetarily. You have no say in the matter, but they brought you into the country through fraud because you thought you were coming in for one thing, but that didn't happen. And now you're in this situation where they have this control over you, right? And you're providing labor services, right? Which they're either not compensating you to the extent that you should be, or they may not even be compensating you at all. Now, trafficking also happens in situations where you are working, maybe a lot of construction workers, they bring you to this construction site, you work there, maybe they said they're going to pay you a certain amount of money, they're paying you less, they're not paying you overtime, they're not giving you safety gear so that you can work safely, they're not allowing you to take a lunch break, and you basically, don't have a say. You continue to work for little money or even no money, or they don't pay you overtime. And there's this, you cannot leave because they tell you that there's nobody else that's going to employ you because you have no documentation. And if you get injured at the job and you want to collect workers' compensation, they don't let you do that, and they threaten you with reporting you to the police. I mean, there's a case that we had where the employer threatened the client that if they left, they would call the police and say they stole from them. So at that point, the client was afraid to leave because he didn't understand the system, he didn't understand the country, and he just didn't want to get in trouble. So there's also trafficking situations from smuggling, right? So say you paid a coyote to bring you over the border, right? And they bring you over the border, but now they've turned it into a trafficking situation where they're forcing you to do work for them, right? They're forcing you to carry things into the United States for them. They're forcing you to cook, to clean. They put you in a house where you cannot leave voluntarily. They're not letting you, go, and maybe they're forcing you to stay there until a certain amount of money has been paid, and you're being forced to do things in the house which you have no control over, right? Sometimes they may not hurt you, but you may see them hurting other people, and then so that puts you in fear of your own self. That if you don't do what they want you to do, you could basically the same thing could basically happen to you. So there are many trafficking situations. Sometimes there are trafficking situations where you're supposed to be working off a debt that is owed to the trafficker. And you're working off that debt through the employment. And somehow that debt never goes away because it continues. They are in control of how much you owe. And they determine how much is going to be applied to whatever you owe. So you're in a situation where they say you owe this money, and they're taking the money and it never reduces. So you just continue working. That's a trafficking situation. Now, another trafficking situation could be, let me see, it can even happen with family members, your siblings. They bring you to the United States and then force you to, excuse me, and then force you to do work around the house, and you have to do it the way they want it. Trafficking can occur with domestic partners, with a boyfriend, and domestic trafficking. There's specific questions we need to ask. But the important thing you need to know from this is that trafficking is not something that you're aware that might have happened to you until a lawyer who is experienced with trafficking cases asks you the right questions. A lot of my clients, when we start screening them for trafficking, they have to go back to their memories, sometimes 20 years ago, to remember a situation with an employer, or to remember the way they came into the country, or to remember a situation with a domestic partner. But the thing is, if you don't have a family member that can file for you, and you don't have, or you have a lot of inadmissibilities, trafficking, the T visa could be one way of getting your green card. And the T visa, out of all the other humanitarian type visas, is the one that has the lowest wait time. It has the least wait time because a lot of people don't file the T visa. So the T visa is taking, I'd say, like 18.5 months to be approved. And once the T visa is approved, right, you get a work permit, you can work, and then 3 years while on T visa, you can apply for your green card, or you can even apply for it, if there's special considerations given to you. So if you know somebody who has been working as a nanny, or working at a nail salon, or working in construction, or has come here and is living with somebody who is treating them like a slave, talk to them and have them talk to an attorney that does a lot of T visas. If you, my law firm, if you like, you can call our number 973-993-1900. I really love helping people with a T visa because, like I said, it's so helpful for people who have no other pathway. There's no other way for them to get their green card. And the one thing I love about the T visa is if you have a prior order of deportation, that's rescinded, that's canceled. So that's awesome. So Bola Bolitin says, if trafficking occurs within family members, it can have a detrimental impact on them. Yes, it can. Trafficking is such a horrible, traumatic event. And even us as lawyers, when we are doing the declaration, talking to the client, asking questions, trying to get the story, many times we cannot do it in one sitting because it is so traumatic, it is so emotional, and our client needs to take lots of breaks. There's a lot of crying, and you basically have to just take it slowly. You have to be gentle. You have to just work at their pace, because it's so much trauma. So let me ask a couple of questions, and let me answer a couple of questions, and then I will head on out. So Norma, hello. Norma Onwudiwe, thank you for joining us. Pretty K, thank you so much. And Chimaijem, thank you for joining. Brian, thank you. I appreciate. Rocky 3 Patel says, how long processes a marriage-based file? I think you're saying how long is the green card process in the marriage-based case? It really depends on where you're filing from. We've had marriage cases approved in less than 6 months, and there are marriage cases that are taking about a year. So, but the thing to do is if you have a marriage-based case, you just really want to make sure you put in powerful evidence of a bona fide marriage. If you've been divorced before, you want to make sure you have your divorce decree attached, and you should also put in your I-693 so that you don't get an RFE. The I-693 is a medical form. You want to make sure that you get your medicals done with the civil surgeon and include it in your package so that if there's a chance of you being approved without an interview, it goes really smoothly, okay? And Shan P 40 says my first time. Oh, lots of first time people. Thank you so much for joining. Brady by Daniel. So I'm looking for questions. I don't see any questions on Facebook or YouTube. So Instagram, you got me. All right. So Desmond E Money says, how can you speed up I-751, which has been pending for 4 years? Desmond, honestly, I-751 is not, speeding it up is not a priority for USCIS. That's why they gave you 48 months extension letter, because you have a green card. So they're not, you guys are just not a priority. Sorry. So you have your green card, and it's a temporary green card, of course, but it's a green card. Nevertheless, you can travel, you can work. So we're seeing that our I-751s are being responded to within 2 years anyway. So even though they give you a 48-month extension, it could be 2 years. And if it's pending for 4 years, another thing you could do is, if you qualify to file for naturalization, because you're still in marital union with your spouse, which allows you to file within 3 years. If you file for your naturalization, typically that would move the process, because they have to respond to the I-751 before they respond to naturalization. And the naturalization is taking less time this year, because this year is an election year, so they're moving out the naturalization as fast as possible. So if you qualify to file for naturalization, that's something you should do. But I encourage you to talk to an attorney and get screened properly to make sure you should be filing for naturalization, because if you have any issues, filing for naturalization is not a good idea. All right. So let's see. I'm looking for more questions. You guys post your questions. I'm not seeing any questions, but no questions. So I have no questions. Somebody says, I asked you how long I-824 takes to get approved. I would say really about maybe a year. That's how long. There's a couple we did that didn't take up to a year, but honestly, the average is taking about a year. But you should just go look at the case processing website and put in your form, and it will let you know how long it's taking for your case type where you live. All right, that's the best way to figure that out. Let's see. So Winner says, how can one with a visitor's visa to the US change status and get PR? What's PR? Get and right to work. Well, if you have a visitor's visa, there are ways to change your status. Maybe you got into school, you can change to an F1. If you have an employer, they may be able to file for you. But the secret is you really want to get started a little earlier, because you want to make sure that you do not go out of status, because that would be a problem. Okay, I think I got somebody called. Oh, all right. Somebody called, and so that I got a little frozen. But Winner, you really want to talk to an attorney, because every case depends on everybody's case is different, but you can change your visitor's visa to several things. You can change it to F1. You can change it to, a work authorization if somebody's filing for you, or, if you're, there are just many things you can change it to, but you want to make sure that you qualify to change it to those things before you run out of status. Because once you get out of status on the B1, B2, it's really tough to get yourself into status unless you qualify for a humanitarian-based petition, or you're married, your spouse is a U.S. citizen. So Jad Sal says, can a person adjust their status if they entered the border illegally? That's a really great question. I'm going to spend a little time to talk about it, and then I'm going to go. So if you come into the United States through the border, right, and you were not inspected, you were not admitted, you were not paroled in, it's going to be hard for you to adjust your status in certain situations. For instance, if you have a family member, like your child, who wants to file for you, have a U.S. citizen child who's over the age of 21 and wants to file for you, and you came in through the border, you're not going to be able to adjust your status. You just won't. And if you come in through the border, you would have to file a waiver, and you have to have a qualifying relative, and your child cannot be a qualifying relative. So if you have a U.S. citizen child and you came in through the border, you're likely not going to be able to adjust your status and get a green card. Now, if you have a spouse who's a U.S. citizen or green card holder, and you came in through the border, you could file a waiver, the 601A waiver, and when it's approved, you have to go back to your country and come in through consular processing. However, there's certain situations and certain visa types that allow you to adjust your status even if you came in through the border illegally. VAWA is one of them, but Violence Against Women's Act. If you came in through the border illegally, it does not matter if you've been abused by your U.S. citizen parent, spouse, or child over the age of 21, or green card holder, spouse, or child. For a U.S. citizen being abused, for a person being abused by the U.S. citizen child, it can only be a U.S. citizen child. It cannot be a green card holder child. Okay, I want to make sure that's clear. Now, if you came in through the border and you're a minor under the age of 21, at the current time, you might be able to qualify for special immigrant juvenile status. You can adjust your status even if you came in through the border illegally, if you're applying for U visa as a victim of a crime, if you're applying for a T visa as a trafficking victim. And of course, asylum is another way, but you have to file within a year unless there are exceptions. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. But I really want you guys to think if you have no status and you've been in the US, you're currently here in the US, think and see if you have been a victim of trafficking through an employer, through a domestic partner. Was it a smuggling situation turned trafficking when you came in through the border? And the thing about the T visa, it doesn't matter how long the trafficking situation occurred, as long as you didn't leave the United States. Because once you leave the United States, that concludes that trafficking situation, and you can only file for a T visa if another trafficking situation arrives when you come into the United States. So that will be it, guys. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and stay safe. Take care.